The nights are long, the days are short, and the weather is chilly to downright cold, depending on where you are. It's a good time to slip into a Quince iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters, which start at only $50. You can treat yourself to everyday luxury at an affordable price with Quince. If you really want to dive into luxury, you can check out their leather handbags, washable silk shirts, and European linen sheet sets. Whatever you're looking for at Quince, all the prices are 50 to 80% less than similar brands, and they do that by partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the middleman. They only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing processes. And of course, they use premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. But you've already heard me rave about my Quince travel pants. Treat yourself this winter without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/traveler for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/traveler to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/traveler. And thanks to Quince for sponsoring this episode of Amateur Traveler.
Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. The app is simple. Pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Download the Prize Picks Daily Fantasy Sports app today and use code FIELD and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code FIELD on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Amateur Traveler, episode 920. Today, the Amateur Traveler talks about waterfalls and volcanoes, art museums and rustic beach resorts, kawa baths, and food crawls as we go on side trips from Manila in the Philippines. This is Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler. Let's talk about the Philippines. I'd like to welcome to the show Justin from justin-travel.com. And Justin has come to talk to us about the Philippines and particularly about day trips from Manila. Justin, welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me. And yeah, something about the Philippines that people don't really know is that, yes, while there's 1,000 plus islands, is that there's so much that you can see straight from Manila. When someone goes and Googles where to go in the Philippines, as we all do, you usually get Siargao, Palawan,
Mm-hmm.
the typical tourist spots, right? But a lot of these guides don't actually lead us to what is around Manila. Anytime I read about Manila specifically, they're like, oh no, a day or two is good. It's just another
Right.
city. And yes, it's another city, but that city is surrounded by literally everything you could need: mountains, waterfalls, beaches. A lot of these things are within a 3 hour drive. And me, initially, I had gone there just to stay for 1 month, and I stayed for a year. Not only is there so much to do in that area, the people are so welcoming. And I feel everyone who just goes to those tourist traps, they're not really getting the essence of the Philippines, meeting those locals, making those memories. There's plenty of places you can go to a beach and party, right? And so that's hopefully what I'm going to help people understand today.
Excellent. You anticipated my first two questions, so we'll skip over them and get right to what itinerary are you going to recommend for us?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Problem. Hey, you're doing my work for me.
So really, it's really based on the amount of time and the amount of comfort someone has with the driving, right?
Yep.
So before I recommend the itinerary itself, I'll start this conversation with an asterisk. Okay. In the Philippines, you can get a rental car. Okay. And that part is not difficult at all. But if you're a squeamish driver and you do not like traffic, fair warning, you can be in traffic for 2 to 3 hours if you don't go at the right time or you go at the wrong time. And there's one rule that you need to be aware of, even with rental cars. Depending on the license plate of your car, you are not allowed to drive during certain days and certain hours. And so while I will give some suggestions as things to do, it's really going to be up to you and whoever you rent the car with, if you decide to go that route, to adjust your schedule based on when you can and can't drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is laws in place to reduce pollution or congestion?
Yep, pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So,
and if I don't drive, I can still get to these places on public transportation or on tours?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it just really depends on how adventurous you are. Personally, I would drive around because it gives you so much flexibility. A thing I'll touch over later is joiner tours, and those are awesome. You get to do a lot for little, but you're waking up at like 3 a.m., 5 a.m., and getting back home at 9 p.m. It's wild. So I digress.
And
So
you
yes,
say joiner tours. Is that a brand or a type of tour?
it's a type of tour. It's
Okay.
essentially these tour providers you can pretty much find on Facebook that are very local, and you
Okay.
just join groups like a tour group. Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. So yes, back to the suggested itinerary. So I'm going to give a little mix of everywhere. Like I mentioned, each of these locations is between 1 to 3 hours drive from Metro Manila.
If
Oh,
we're
go ahead.
doing day trips from Manila, do we want to be staying on the suburbs? Because some of the least fun driving I'm going to suspect is in Manila itself.
You are 100% correct. And again,
I've been
that's
there. I've seen the traffic. I didn't drive it.
yeah. That's another thing, right? Because a lot of these trips can be day trips very
Yeah.
easily, it's really up to your comfort level because you might decide, okay, a day trip would be great, but I really love what you're talking about in this region. So maybe I'll stay there for 2 days, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that always changes. But yes, you're 1000% correct. The main questions I would ask someone is, okay, do you like nightlife? Okay, then maybe you got to suck up that traffic and stay
Stay
in
in Manila.
Poblacion and stay in Manila. Maybe you want to stay in the city, but you want something a little more upscale. There's a BGC, which is more of a business center, really
Got
amazing
it.
Airbnbs. Or you can say, you know what, Justin, I hate the city. I understand everything's drivable from Manila. But because these cities are so easy to reach, you can still make another one of them your main housing. The cities that I would recommend are Antipolo, Tanay, Tagaytay, and Batangas. Now, each individual city has something unique to itself. All right.
Okay.
And let me know if I'm going too fast. Yeah.
No, go as fast as you go. I'll just try and keep up. So let's start then with Antipolo.
Okay, great. So Antipolo is about 30 minutes, 1 hour from Manila itself. All right. And it's a great place, I think, for maybe the first or second day that you arrive into Manila so you can rest. Because you can take your time driving from Metro Manila, and there's so many amazing cafes in Antipolo. Antipolo is known for its cafes. It has a lot of that type of culture. Like
Okay.
some very popular ones are Cafe Lupe, the Burro Cafe, and one of my favorites, Yellow Lantern Cafe. Now, the reason why that one's one of my favorites is there's a beautiful skyline. It's a little more up higher in where the restaurant's located, and so you're
Okay.
able to have a really nice breakfast overlooking Metro Manila from there, essentially. Yeah.
And this is really a suburb of Manila. We're not very far away on the island.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Okay.
very, yeah. So again, a lot of these day trips are very doable. If you don't want to start early, I'm not an early riser. Start in the afternoon. You'll be okay. Anyway, so yeah, I recommend going for a breakfast or a brunch there. Now, one of my favorite spots in Antipolo is the Pinto Art Museum. Most
Okay.
people, if you hear about Antipolo, it's cafes, the Pinto Art Museum, and Cloud9. Now, you might be saying, Justin, I'm in another country. I don't really care for museums. And some people do feel that way. But I do think it's a great place to go take some photos, see different styles of art, and understand more of the culture. And while I understand not everyone likes that, I still think it's a good little side trip. Okay. So I won't focus too much on the museum aspect because it's not for everyone. We're going to focus on the experience of the whole day.
Okay.
So that's one of the things I would recommend, right? Nice slow
And
morning.
the Pinto Art Museum, what I'm seeing is particularly Filipino art.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Right?
And
Because
more contemporary than old.
yes, yes, because we're trying to understand the culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, if we're traveling, and there's a local restaurant there, so if you're still hungry again, or if you want to get an alcoholic drink on your vacation afternoon, it's the perfect spot. All
Okay.
right. Okay. And again, great for couples. I've gone there and we take amazing photos and it's really nice. The next spot I would go to is Cloud9. So in Cloud9, it's this area that has a really amazing hanging bridge and multi-story viewing deck. So you're going to find that a recurring theme of
Got it.
Antipolo is these high viewing decks because that's what people like to see there. The reason why I'm recommending these on the first or second day is you're going to be jet lagged. You want to start slow before we
Yeah.
start heading toward the mountains and the beaches, right? You want to take your time. So that's my first recommendation.
You talk about Cloud Bridge. So this is one of those shaky while you walk on it bridges that some people get so nervous about, but with a great view of the metropolitan Manila area.
Correct. So you get
Okay.
that little bit of a adrenaline for your day, and you get out in the sun. And there's even a little museum there that's part of the entrance. It's
Okay.
like a multi-experience type thing, but most people go for that hanging bridge and the viewing deck and just take a little rest there for a little while. Another
Okay.
great date spot, right? There's many other little things to see in Antipolo, but again, I'm recommending this as a slow day. So there's a very beautiful cathedral there, literally called the Antipolo Cathedral. There's also a protected landscape called, and I'm sure I'm chewing it up, Hinolugang Taktak. And there you're able to see this waterfall very close to the city, and there you can eat and just hang out for the day, and it's a lazy day. If you were to look up any images on it,
And
protected
this will all be in the
landscape.
show notes for people. So go to the show
Okay.
notes, and I've already looked it up for you.
Awesome, yeah. Another cool thing about that is you can stand next to the waterfall at the bottom, and they have a bunch of little activities for people. Like they have how do I explain this? Like a rope course, you can
Okay.
eat there, and it's very local. You're not going to see tourists here. So if you want to meet some locals and see how they live, this is a really great spot for that.
Hmm.
And again, I'm progressively making a suggestion because some people get that culture shock at first. So now you get used to the traffic, you'll get some exposure to some local food and exposure to some locals. And you'll really start understanding how friendly people are and how open everyone is, especially in these areas where they don't see tourists that much.
And you
Survive.
said exposure to local food. Is there something particularly that we want to order in the Manila area or in Antipolo?
In Antipolo, I don't think there's a specific dish. I'm referencing more like the street food. I'm not always an adventurous eater, but I will do it once. I will try that scorpion once, the that weird thing once. One thing you should try when you're in Manila, which I have not been brave enough to try, is the balut,
The egg fetus.
Yes,
Fetus, sorry.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. And so for me, a person who doesn't normally like egg, just putting it close to my mouth, it's just not for me. I do encourage everyone to be braver than I and give that a shot. Mostly also the street barbecue in Manila is amazing. You can generally just take a look at the meat, and if you know how barbecue looks like, I think you can tell if it was good or not. One of the cultural shocks that I initially experienced is how comfortable they are in the Philippines with leaving food out for a longer amount of time that's not necessarily refrigerated. Yeah, so like in America, we're told if you're not eating it, put it in the fridge immediately, right? Or it'll
Hmm.
go bad. People might have it out for hours and it's still good. I haven't gotten sick yet, knock on wood, so it's up to you. You know your stomach. If you're someone with a weak stomach, take some anti-diarrhea pills. But overall, I have not had any issues with eating local food in the Philippines. Everything has been really delicious.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else we want to do while we're in Antipolo?
Antipolo, that's it. We had our
Okay.
chill day. Oh, so there is one spot, but I haven't been to it. But I'll go ahead and give people that information. There's a cave actually in Antipolo called
This is the mystical
Nelly's.
cave.
Yes, have you been?
No, I just saw it on the map as I was
Yeah,
looking this.
yeah. When I tried to go, it was actually closed. So I
Ah.
do know you need to check on Facebook. There's a lot of businesses that are very Facebook centric in the
Hmm.
Philippines. You may not find the information elsewhere. So always check Facebook pages. Sometimes you even make reservations through Facebook pages. That's one of the main things. If people are used to going through Yelp or some other third party, you might not find it even on Facebook. It might just be on Instagram. So actually, as you guys are traveling through the Philippines, I'd encourage you to do some research even in Instagram. Type in the hashtag of that town. There'll actually be a lot of local experiences that aren't on travel blogs. There might be a mom and pop shop who has a waterfall on their land or a cafe on their land or a beautiful homestay right next to the beach that you wouldn't have found on hotel.com or bookings.com. That's one of the more unique things I've found about the Philippines. For some, it can be troublesome, right? Because they want everything at their fingertips. But for me, it can give you more that adventure, off the beaten track feel, right?
Okay.
Um,
Where are we going the next day?
all right. So on the next day, we're going to go to a place called Tanay, Rizal. So this location is about 2 hours from Metro Manila. And this is one of those things where there's a lot to do, and there are tour packages that leave almost daily to go to this area. There's one that I've used on Facebook a lot called EBK Travel and Tours, and you can get full day packages for 20, $30, which is crazy cheap in my opinion as a traveler. So okay, back to the things that you can do in Tanai. In this region of this island, that's where you get more of the mountains. There's one beautiful thing if you look up things to do in Tanai, Treasure Mountain. Sea of Clouds is going to be one of the number one suggested things to do. Now, for those who are comfortable with overnight camping, I would recommend doing that there because then you can sleep well, maybe even going from Antipolo towards Tanay and sleep well for that night and wake up really early to see all of the clouds going through the mountain. It's just such a beautiful experience. And not only do they have that, but there's also like I think I was 3 stories up, also an obstacle course. I remember I dropped my phone from my pocket. Somehow it survived. And yeah, and just a bunch of little things like that. They have a swing over the mountainside for those who are brave. What else? It's just a unique experience that I thought was really cool that was so close to the city. A city that you keep being told has only buildings and trash, right? A few other spots there again. There's the I'll say it wrong again. Kaminawali's Hill Garden. Yeah, Kaminawali's Hill Garden. Another place just to take photos. Again, a garden is pretty self-explanatory. There's a few viewpoints, the Tanay viewpoint, the Regina Rica Shrine. And so this is already all in an itinerary if you wanted to just pay for a tour. But this is one of those things where you start at 3 a.m. and get home at 9 p.m. Yeah, I know. There's a beautiful waterfall. There's another beautiful church. And this is just another one of those slow days. There are options for adventure. There's always going to be an operator for ATVs or something that's more adventurous, right? But that's up to you if you want to do that, right? Depends on your travel style. Most of my recommendations here are one variation of vacation where it's slow. You're enjoying beautiful views, you're enjoying the weather, you're sightseeing, right?
Konnichiwa, I'm Yuki, a tour leader with Explore. Who knew that hidden among Tokyo's towering skyscrapers was a peaceful tea house surrounded by ancient trees and serene ponds? Actually, I knew. It was my mother's secret sanctuary. Not everyone knows about Tokyo's Hamarikyu Gardens. Arigatou gozaimasu. But you will if you explore. Search exploreworldwide.com and don't just travel, explore.
Head to Whole Foods Market to jumpstart your January during our New Year boosting event with savings on feel-good favorites store-wide. Save on organic picks, wellness staples, and more all month long.
If you want something more adventurous, then that leads us to the next location. All
Okay.
right. The next location is Tagaytay. So Tagaytay, if you look up the region, it's known for Taal volcano and the lake. It's literally a lake, and inside is a volcano, and inside the volcano there's a little lake. So it's like lakeception. So I think back in the day you could take a boat on there, but the volcano's been more active recently, so unfortunately can't do that. But the really cool thing about this area is there's so many viewpoints surrounding that lake where you can do what's it called? Where you rappel down a rope.
Okay.
What is
Repelling.
that called?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, rappelling. There's a lot of like
Abseiling is the other word for it, depending on which part of the world you're in.
okay, okay. There's a lot of activities like that. Lots of really beautiful overlooks for picnics and mini carnivals, you could say. So a few of the spots that people like to go to are Tagaytay Picnic Grove and People's Park in the Sky and Sky Ranch. So all those 3 locations have something unique to itself, like a really cool zip line, or is it a Ferris wheel? The big one that goes.
If it's vertical and rotates in a vertical direction, then yes, if that's what you're talking
Yes,
about.
there we go. Ferris
Okay.
wheel. I have not had my coffee this morning, even though it's afternoon. Maybe after this I will. But yeah, yeah. So again, this is just another really chill day. The great thing about this location is the food.
Mm.
Not only are there amazing viewpoints where you can relax and have a picnic and enjoy these views, but in Tagaytay, there's something called bulalo. It's essentially beef, and the region is known for its beef. So you can go to many local restaurants there and try something that's popular is a bulalo soup. which is pretty much a beef soup. The main
Okay.
place that people go to is called Mahogany Market. Now, I haven't gone to Mahogany Market per se. I went to Tagaytay at 1 a.m. in the morning after a drunken night partying in Manila because a friend had a car, and one of the girls was like, "Hey, I'm really craving bulalo." So here we are at 2 a.m. driving to Tagaytay, and there are some places that open really late, and that was the best hangover soup I have ever had, I will tell you. But apart from the food and the viewpoints, actually, one of the funny things there is there's a Starbucks that has a viewpoint. There's a
Okay.
McDonald's that has a viewpoint. So if you're not really feeling hungry or in the mood to try bulalo or go for a picnic, you can even just stop by that Starbucks and take a look, which is really interesting for those Starbucks lovers out there. But
And what I'm
this,
seeing is bulalo has the bones and the marrow of the bones in it. So it's a beef
yes,
shank soup. Okay.
yes, and they'll normally still leave everything there in the soup, and it's really hearty. It's very delicious. Yeah, and so the other thing that I thought was really cool there, and depending on how you structure your day, there's a thing called, and let me say this, La Veriol's Kawa bath. Now, a kawa, you can imagine, is like a wok, a large metal wok, right?
Okay.
And and you're essentially being cooked in this large metal wok, but it's so relaxing.
Okay.
And it's a cultural thing to do there. This particular hot bath, you're generally overlooking again a nice viewpoint, relaxing, and I believe depending on where you go, it'll be water mixed with petals, and it's just very picturesque and relaxing. They can give you massages, they have snacks for you. So I would probably recommend starting your day at Akawa Bath. This is one of those businesses where you do make your reservations via Facebook and then making your way to one of the viewpoints through Tagaytay Picnic Grove or People's Park in the Sky or Sky Ranch and going there for lunch. Either buying on the road, you'll find lots of vendors for different
Hmm.
types of food, and you can pick up food and you're allowed to take food to these spots and just picnic there and look at the volcano. It's so close and it's so beautiful.
Now, the one thing that I'm getting the sense of, Justin, is that all the places you're telling us about are local spots. This is a place we're going to find Filipinos on vacation.
Correct. That's
Okay.
right.
Cool.
So, yeah, this is not where you're going to go crazy party, right? And that's like one of the reasons why I'm suggesting this. Regardless of your age, maybe you don't want to go to a party spot. Maybe you just want to really get into the culture and get into the nature. And these spots really give you that local experience. It's like you said, it's going to be locals and their families and their friends going on vacation to these spots, right? For those who like to feel like they're the only tourist in the location, these are the cities where you'll feel that way, right? The Filipinos are really amazing at hospitality. They
Hmm.
will take care of you. If you're lost, if you're looking for something, someone's going to help you. And while English is a strong language in the Philippines, as you're
Right.
going out to some of these cities, it might not be that strong. But even regardless of their strength, they're going to help. I'm less worried about getting scammed or getting misled by someone here than another country.
Mm.
Most people have really good intentions, and you can make friends with locals. You might even get invited to someone's house, and I think that's what's really cool about it. They're just very friendly.
Okay.
Okay. So for Tagaytay, you can do 1 or 2 days because similar to Antipolo, there's a lot of really amazing cafes there.
Mm.
And some people will go for cafe hopping. There's also a strawberry farm there. So if you really like fresh fruit and fresh strawberries, there's a place called Queen's Strawberry Farm. Most of the locations that are popular in the Philippines to go on vacation, even if they're local, they'll have one main service and usually a restaurant or something like that. And this is one of those places. So they have the strawberry farm. You can go pick strawberries if you make a reservation when it's in
Hmm.
season. And there's also a restaurant where you can try different strawberry products that they made. So I
Okay.
think that's pretty cool because you can become part of that process, see how the picking happens if that's something you've never done before, and be able to taste that product that's straight from the farm,
Yeah, I'm
right?
seeing cheesecake and milkshakes and salads
Well,
and
well,
all
well
sorts of good stuff.
Yeah, they always have everything. You go to a lot of restaurants and it might be Filipino, but they might also have burgers and chicken. Like
Okay.
they're smart with business. They know who the clientele are. And again, as you drive through Tagaytay, you'll find a lot of flower and fruit stalls as you're driving by. So
Mm,
it's cool really to just check out what fruits you might be able to find. They're super, super fresh. I always like to stop at random spots just to stretch my legs, and you just never know what you'll discover. You'll find some very fresh honey or some fruit you've never had before, which I think is really cool. Like that's the fun part about driving through these regions is you're going to see something that you haven't before. You may not be used to having all these different types of services in one area, and you'll be surprised. There's so many spots that I haven't even gone to driving through the cities. Every time I go, I discover a new cafe or a new homestay area that's fairly unique. And that's another thing. Most people, and you and I talked about this before. A lot of people are comfortable with resorts,
sure.
and others have a disdain of them. They hear resort and they're like, "Oh no, you're never going to leave. You're not really getting the
Hmm.
full experience." And I totally understand. But when you're on this part of the island, resort might not mean resort of what you think. Resort could be a homestay with the word resort in it. So be a little open minded when you see the word resort. It, it might be three shacks by the beach and they might call that beach resorts. Just so be aware to make sure you do research when you are looking for accommodation in these regions. And some people may need Wi Fi and they may need hot water. And while those are standards in many places, they may not be standard in some of these areas. So make sure you double check if that's a requirement for you. So those are those regions. And I'll pause real quick because I know I've been going pretty quickly over these parts.
No need. That's okay. Where to next?
Okay, great. So this next section is where you'll find the beaches. So this entire region is called Batangas. In Batangas, there's actually a lot of small towns where you can go and have equivalent of the little Boracay experience. Essentially, if you're looking for pristine beaches, they
Hmm.
exist within driving of Manila. So I believe from Manila to this region, I think it can take 3 hours to get there, depending on which route you take. But the great thing about the Batangas region is if you want to go hiking, there's plenty of mountainous spots out there. And while it might not be for everyone, it's very beautiful. But one of the things that I really enjoyed while I was out there is I actually stayed in something called a kubo. So a kubo pretty much and the actual word in Tagalog is bahay kubo, which translates to country house. So it's
Okay.
essentially a cabin, you could say, made out of wood, bamboo, and dried leaves. It's very cultural there. It's what people in the
Hmm.
countryside live in. And I was able to stay in a kubo that was 10 minutes from the beach walking. And I think that was probably one of my favorite experiences there because it was relatively inexpensive. It was like I think $30 a night, and you have this whole beach to yourself. It's a secret beach or a hidden beach. There's a few hidden beaches in that area. I think they're called Burot Hidden Beach, close to Calatagan, Batangas, yeah, one of the cities there. And the place that I booked was Calatagan's Bahay Kubo, essentially that country house in Calatagan. And I really enjoyed that because it's a family who has these multiple kubos on their property and they'll take care of you. If you want them to cook for you, they're there. They'll try and talk to you and they'll walk you to the beach so that you're familiar and comfortable. And they can even help you take tours. From there, actually, a reason why people go to Batangas in general is there's a lot of water sports. So you can go snorkeling, paddleboarding. You can even rent a boat for a day or a few hours. There's like these practically cabins that are floating on a boat in the water. I'm sure there's a word for it. A floating cottage is what they like to call it. So
Okay.
there's these floating cottages that you can rent relatively inexpensive. And a lot of the times they'll catch the fish for you there. They'll cook the fish for you fresh. You can even see it, which I think is really unique. But the real reason that people go to Batangas is not everyone can afford to go to Boracay. And most of us, if you've done any research for the Philippines, Boracay is one of those super popular tourist spots for the beaches. But because of that, it's very touristic, it's very full, and not everyone really enjoys being hassled by the tour operators and everything like that. But in Batangas, there's an area literally called Little Boracay where it has beautiful white sand, sandbars, beautiful clear water, and there's actually a bunch of little islands you can go island hopping to. And so it's relatively inexpensive. I think you can find packages for 20, 30, $40, and they'll take you to all the
Hmm.
little islands in the region and island hop, and they'll feed you. And I think it's really cool because Again, a lot of people will fly into Manila, and who knows how much you paid for that flip from your country. Then you need to pay another $200-300 to get to Boracay. What everyone's always doing is they'll go Manila, Siargao, Boracay. They're paying so much money hopping from place to place, but I think people aren't really getting the full experience because you're rushing to get to these places. You're rushing, but here you're able to take your time. You're not being hassled by anyone, and it's practically like having that experience in Siargao or in Boracay, but private. There'll be a few
Right.
local families here and there, but now you can really enjoy the beauty and the culture that is the Philippines, how locals would experience it. You're not spending $20 for a cocktail. Maybe you're grabbing a local beer from 7-Eleven and taking it to the beach and making friends with the family who's lived there for 20, 30, 40 years. That to me is the experience of traveling. Not everyone agrees, and that's okay.
And you were talking about the little Boracay area, and I'm looking at pictures of it, and you talked about the little cabins on the
Mhm.
water. And so what I'm seeing is basically bamboo rafts with outdoor seating areas and maybe even a place you could climb up and get a view from, and not much else.
Ye-
It's not even a little house, it's more like a little pleasure houseboat sort of experience.
Yes. Yeah, so you do stay in that area, you don't go very far.
It reminds me of in the South, they do pontoon boats out on the
Yes.
lake. And this is that kind of vibe, except you're in a bamboo raft out on the ocean, the beach.
Yeah, that's right. And so this type of experience is good for like big groups, right? You can still do it with 2 or 3 people. I've definitely seen it, but generally large groups of 8 to 10 people or something will go. They rent out this thing for the day. Their kids and whoever will be swimming around the boat, and then they'll be eating and drinking from there, and it's just a nice bonding experience, right?
Yep,
Just
yep. That's what I was getting.
relaxing. Yes, but there is diving there. There is a lot of sea life in the areas. If you do look up Little Boracay, Cataclan, you'll see a lot of the photos that you see are where they're pretty much still in the beach on the
Right.
sandbars.
Yep.
So they do take you around, and then they'll generally stop at one of the sandbars so everyone can enjoy the water and hop in and out as they want.
We talked about you could do this as a day trip from Manila, but you're the other side of Tagaytay. And
Yeah,
so
this
it
one's further.
yeah, it looks like you're probably doing this one with a night or two, either in the Tagaytay area or in the Batangas area.
Yes. So generally, if someone wants to make this route, I do recommend coupling it with your trip to Tagaytay. So you would
Yep.
start from Manila, go to Tagaytay, and if you really enjoyed the region, you can stay a night to relax or do some of those things I mentioned at the first go around. Get to Batangas, rest for the night, do your beach day or two, and then
Mm-hmm.
drive back through Tagaytay potentially. There's 2 routes that you can go. I think there's 3 routes actually to get back into Manila. You can go the same way you came from. You can go around the entire volcano, or you can go down the coast on the west to make your way
Mm-hmm.
back into Manila. Yeah.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouthwatering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Hey Atlanta, Apple is open for small business. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. With privacy and security built in on all devices, it's easy for you to protect your customers' data. And if you need hardware or software support, you'll get advice from business experts at no cost whatsoever. So you can focus more on the soup du jour and less on, the other stuff. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
The one thing though that I almost forgot to mention is make sure that you tell your rental car service that you do need the what is it called? I think it's called like Slex. Essentially, you need to be able to go on the paid tolls.
Oh, okay.
A lot of those tolls they used to take cash, but they're transitioning them completely electronic. So
So it's the Filipino version of FastPass or whatever.
yeah,
Okay.
except if you get stuck now and you don't have the electronic toll, I honestly don't know what they would do because if you miss a turn, an exit, you're driving another 30, 40 minutes sometimes. I've done
Mm-hmm.
this so many times because I wasn't paying attention and I had to turn back. Not only did I have to pay the toll again to exit and re-enter, but it took me a 30, 40-minute detour just because of a 1 minute turn. So please be careful if you are taking these tolls to pay attention to your exits. Yeah. I believe if you're getting a rental car, they can activate the toll pass for you and they'll load it for you. Just make sure that you mention maybe where you're thinking of going. That way they can set that up properly for you. Because I know when I had set it up with a friend to go, whenever we ran out of money, we would reload it with an app called Gcash. And so I was able to register my own Gcash account, but I'm not sure if everyone is. I think you can do it with your passport, I want to say. But it's better to just go ahead and get the rental car company to handle it for you so you don't have any difficulties. Yeah. And that's another thing. When you're out there, you may not have service on some of the roads as you're heading there. So I definitely would recommend downloading your Google Maps offline or using Maps.me so that you don't get too
Mm-hmm.
lost. And for those who are very picky about their restrooms, take toilet paper and take wipes because that will not be available in all places. And sometimes there's even a toilet seat missing. So everything I've mentioned so far sounds pretty chill and very picturesque. There are some drawbacks. It is the countryside.
Mm-hmm.
Not all creature comforts will always be there. So if you need something, if you get car sick, take the medicine that you may need. Most cities do have 7-Elevens even on the smaller cities on the way to these major cities. There's plenty of gas stations and stuff like that. But
Right.
if you're a regular traveler, then these things are necessary in East Asia.
Daniel, is there more that you wanted to talk about in Batangas, or did you have more in your itinerary? Because I have some other questions.
Yeah, I do have more in the itinerary.
Okay.
So all of this is focused in the south. But if you're the type of person that rushes through everything, I think what I gave you guys so far can be 5 days. So the
Okay.
one thing I forgot to mention before is it's still worth exploring Manila when you get there, but you might just want to go to the outer city depending on how your schedule is. So there are some important things in Manila. There's a Chinatown, Rizal Park, Binondo. It's really cool. They used to say it was 5 miles or something crazy of food stalls, but it's much less now because of the pandemic. But literally blocks on blocks, there's so many food stalls of literally everything you can imagine. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really cool place to go while you're in Manila because I haven't seen anything that extensive in my travels as far as food stalls go, and it's super, super local. And I think you can even find food crawls for that. If you Google Binondo food crawl, there's a really cool guide from another travel blog I follow called Guide to the Philippines. The main issue that people have there is parking. So if you decide to do that in your first day or second day, maybe take a taxi there because the parking is just the
Mm-hmm.
worst. And there's also Intramuros, which is like the
That was my
heritage.
favorite part of Manila. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, the heritage area. And
Right.
with that area, just those three things that can be a full day for some people.
And
But
you say the heritage area. So this is the old Spanish heart of the city. And so, as somebody like me who is a history buff, this is your neighborhood.
yes, yeah, it's really beautiful there. I enjoyed it. But I would say start early because it can get really hot depending on when you go. There was one other thing. When you guys are doing research and you find that you're not really interested in going down to Batangas, there is another region that is further north called La Union. And so La Union, it is a bit more of a drive. I want to say could be 6 to 8 hours. But on the way up there, you could easily spend 2, 3 days. They have more of a surf culture up there. They do have
Mm.
beaches. They have some of those quote unquote resorts right next to the beach. I remember I stayed one, it was like $15 a night. I had my own cabin. It was beautiful at night because there was a pool lit up with little LED lights, and maybe 50 feet away is the beach. If you're looking for that kind of vibe, La Union is definitely really good for that. And it's definitely more off the beaten path. That's for those who want to like jam pack their itinerary,
Got it. And
or
this is
switch it.
spelled like La Union.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
La Union. Yeah. And that could be another 4 day itinerary, honestly, depending on how you drive. Yeah. So what were those questions?
So, one of the things then, actually, before we get to the things I was thinking about, is if you're in La Union, you're fairly far north in the island, and you might as well go to the Batad rice terraces if you're up that far too, which
I
is a World Heritage site and pretty amazing spot to see. It's a 7-hour drive from La Union. You're taking windy roads into the interior, but it's something that I at least want to mention because it is a fantastic region, but it's right in the middle of the island and very mountainous, so a little slow to get to.
Yeah, I've actually have not been to that. I'm seeing it now in front of me. It looks beautiful.
It's stunning.
Uh,
It's a very beautiful area and a place to do while your knees are still young. I did it a few years ago and I was on a press trip and there were 7 of us, and going into the first rice terrace, I think I was the 4th slowest, and then when we got to the second one, 3 people decided not to make the hike, and so I was the slowest. We were basically slowed down by however fast I could do the series of steps going down the rice terraces.
yeah, that's fair. My right knee is not the best too. I might be young at heart, but my knee is probably 70 years old.
Oh no, that's too bad. So
Yeah.
the other thing, as a history buff near Manila, the other day tour that I wonder about is Corregidor.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you had a chance to get there. So you're talking about the fortress that guards Manila's harbor and very famous for the battle there in the beginning of World War II in the early part
Yes.
of 1942.
Yeah, that's one of the islands west. I think for some time they had stopped tours and they restarted recently.
Yeah, they stopped
Yeah.
during the pandemic. I think you're right.
Yeah. I haven't made my way there yet. It looks really interesting. I think they pick you up near SM Mall of Asia in that pier area, and then they take you by private boat to that island, and it's like a full day thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to do that when I head back in a month. That's on my list. And I might actually go ahead and check out these terraces. I've mentioned some of the major spots, but there's so many places. There's even, I think, up north an area where there's sand dunes and you can go sand dune riding.
Oh, interesting. I
Yeah.
haven't heard of that.
Yeah,
It's a big island.
it really is. And 7 hours might sound crazy for someone to drive, or 8 hours, but I'm in Texas. You drive 8 hours, you're still in
It's still in
Texas.
Texas.
And the reason why I'm mentioning these different cities in this one island is, again, you have such a diverse ecosystem in one geographical location, from beaches to mountains to caves to sand dunes. And people don't do Manila justice when they just go to the party islands, right? When they
Right,
go and
right.
just stay at those resorts. So I would hope for that could encourage someone to even just do some additional research from based on the locations that I mentioned, because I barely touched the surface of all the things that there are to do there. And even not just the research, but supporting local agencies there. There's so many small businesses there that do complete tours. They'll pick you up from your hotel or something like that. And the value that you get is immense. The amount of money I would have spent on my own, getting a rental car, trying to figure out my food, housing, and all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff, I can pay 30-40 bucks for a day tour all inclusive, right? Oh, and I think that's really cool because if you don't feel comfortable making these drives, there's a lot of day tours and weekend tours you can do, not just limited to the locations that I suggested, right? Yeah, and actually you might even save more money going through one of these agencies. Like I remember I was pricing out a week in Siargao, and I was like, I'm at least gonna spend $1,000 in that week. And to
Mm-hmm.
me, having lived in the Philippines for so long, $1,000 can hold me over for a month if I'm not doing anything crazy. So
Right.
it's hard to justify a month's worth of travel expenses to go somewhere one week when I've already been to plenty of beaches. So you can stretch your budget longer by going through these travel agencies and get more experiences that you wouldn't have otherwise had. Yeah.
So I think earlier, I'm going to fact check myself here. I don't know if I said the name of the island correctly. I meant to say Luzon, but I may have said Leyte, which is the Gulf and the famous Battle of Leyte. So
Ah,
Luzon is the island that we're on, and it is the 15th largest island in the world. And last week's show, when this comes out, would have been on the island of Majorca, which we said was the size of Long Island in the US. This is 28 times the size of Long Island. So it's instead of 1,400 square miles, it's 40,000 square miles. It would take you a while to drive the whole island. And
yes,
it's
yes, yes.
most of the land mass of the Philippines. So
Right.
it's It's about a third the land area of the Philippines is just this one island, the island of Luzon.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and I'm glad you fact checked that actually. It would have gone through my mind. When I think Manila, in my mind, it's Manila Island. It's the whole thing. And I think a lot of tourists think that way when they hear Manila. But that also goes to show why it's such a variant region because it's so
Yeah,
large.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. But even so, like just the first few locations that I mentioned that are within a few hours drive, to me, it's really cool that you can do that. You can even use public transportation to get there. It might be a pain in the butt. You can definitely pay $3 or $4 to go to a city that's 2-3 hours away with a jeepney. But jeepneys can be a little scary for those who don't travel often because not all the drivers will necessarily know English, and you have to be able to tell them where to stop and be comfortable with jumping off the vehicle really quickly. It's essentially like an open air bus for those who don't know what a jeepney is. Or would you have a better way of describing a jeepney, Chris?
It's an open air bus with a lot more flair.
100%.
They all have their own style and they bling up the wazoo. Up in the Batad area, the typical way you ride on a jeepney is on the top of the bus, which don't tell my mother that I ever did that, but I have video shot from the top of a jeepney going around these mountain curves, and it's just the thing to do up there.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely see people in Manila hanging from the back of the jeepney when it's so full. I don't know if I'm that brave. I don't know if my traveler's insurance would cover that.
Yeah, it is one of the reasons why people are always afraid of with travel is it's safe, and the big reason why people get hurt in their travels usually is traffic, same as it is at home. But so I'm not sure that hanging off the back is a great idea, but it is the way it is done there.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to add to your itinerary before we get to some of our wrap up questions?
No, I know I mentioned a lot and it might have been very quick for some. I just really encourage everyone to be open-minded. Go check out these different regions. Even if you spend one day before you head out to Siargao and the other islands, give one of these spots a shot. I don't think you'll regret it. You'll really experience the culture. You'll have opportunities to see things that you wouldn't have seen. And that one memory you make might even encourage someone else to go and do that. And that's what we want here. We want to encourage those positive steps of exploration. Hopefully, that's my goal. Thanks,
Excellent.
Chris.
As we get to our wrap up questions, you are standing in the prettiest spot that you have seen. We'll give you the whole island of Luzon here. Where are you standing and what are you looking at?
The whole island of Luzon. Let me think. Let me think. That is a great question. Oh, there's so many amazing viewing spots. I think one of my favorite mornings was one of the ones I mentioned, which was what was the name? In Antipolo.
With
No,
the
no.
hanging bridge.
Yeah, in the hanging bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's not just the bridge itself, but the viewing deck above. And you can just chill there and take it in. I think that's one of my favorite ones, honestly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
One thing that makes you laugh and say only in the Philippines.
Oh gosh. So many things, some
Only
things I
one.
can't say on a podcast. Only in the Philippines. If I hadn't gone to so many places, I would say only in the Philippines, looking at the electric lines and how it's safe and no one has. Yeah. Gosh.
I don't know if people know what you're describing, but in my neighborhood, I look out the window and there's maybe 3 electric lines and everybody taps in and there's things like that. You're talking about one of those neighborhoods that we see in the developing world, which there is a tangle of wires and you wonder how anybody ever gets service.
Yes, and there's always that one line dangling very close to the pedestrian, and I'm thinking, if I accidentally touch this, will I die?
But yes, not only in the Philippines, I agree with you, having seen that in India and other places as well. But it is definitely a third world motif.
100%. Yeah.
Excellent. If you had to summarize the Philippines in just 3 words, what 3 words would you use?
In 3 words.
For this part of the Philippines.
I would say adventure.
Okay.
People and party still, honestly. Yeah.
You're a little younger than I am, I think. But yeah. Excellent. Our guest again has been Justin from justin-travel.com. And Justin, if we sent people to justin-travel.com, what's the best post we should send them to learn more about the Philippines?
Definitely where to party in Makati.
Excellent. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Justin, thanks
Yeah.
so much for coming on Amateur Traveler and sharing with us your obvious love for the Philippines.
Thank you, Chris.
Build a routine with Ollie that supports your wellness needs, like getting your daily vitamins and minerals with Ollie's multi-gummies, or keeping your mood upbeat with all the vitamin D in Hello Happy. Give your gut health some support with probiotics, and wake up feeling refreshed after taking Ollie Sleep. Do wellness on your terms. Find Ollie at a Walmart or Target near you or at ollie.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Special thanks to the patrons of this show who help support Amateur Traveler financially for as little as $5 a month. If you're interested in becoming a patron, getting the show early and also an ad-free version of the show and a monthly Zoom call, go to patreon.com/Amateur Traveler. Also, special thanks to the advertisers who help support Amateur Traveler since this is my day job now. A shout out to Lynn, who is one of the patrons who made it for the first time to last month's Zoom call and got some great advice in terms of places to go in Spain as she moves to Spain to become an English teacher. One person on the call suggested the Canaries, and that's where she decided to go. And she says, I spent the time in Tenerife, which turned out to be great for me as I largely followed the advice of your guest, basing myself in Puerto de la Cruz and traveling around the island by bus. I did not want to rent a car. Also, I followed many of his suggestions for day trips, like taking a whale watching excursion, hiking on Mount Tide and Anaga, doing a lava tube tour, and spending time in Santa Cruz. This is long overdue, but I offer you great thanks for your show, which is my favorite podcast, and have used it as a resource for several vacations and to dream about many more. Muchas más gracias for creating and producing Amateur Traveler. I love the destination-based format, but also really appreciate the topical ones. Congratulations on quote-unquote retirement from your day job, and I'm so glad that you're continuing to produce shows. BTW, after your many years of hard work, you deserve those press trips and tourist-sponsored trips. Again, tremendous thanks from a longtime loyal but previously silent fan, Lynn. And thanks so much, Lynn. And it was great to have you on the Zoom call and to get to meet you. I also heard from David about the episode we did on Door County. As a cheesehead from Wisconsin who visited more than 100 countries, I still find my state's sights, festivals, and people among my favorites. My compliments on your Door County episode. Your highlights were spot on. As an avid hiker, I'd also throw in Potawatomi State Park, which has the eastern terminus of the National Scenic Trail known as the Ice Age Trail within. I often tap into your archives for episodes pertinent to places I'm pondering visiting, and I'm usually grateful I invested the time. Cheers. Thanks so much, David. I'm recording 3 new episodes for Amateur Traveler this week. So again, if you want to hear more what's going on in Amateur Traveler, make sure you are subscribed. And I am off to the Balkans and to the Society of American Travel Writers Conference in Istanbul. So next week's show will be one from the archives. With that, we're going to end this episode of Amateur Traveler. If you have any questions, send an email to chris2x@gmail.com, or better yet, leave a comment on this episode at amateurtraveler.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening.